Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you who have joined us from across the globe. Welcome to our second webinar on debunking the hype on the need for AI app platforms. I am Jayanto Mukherjee, Head of Apps and Cloud Portfolio for Sogeti globally. And it is my pleasure to have with me today some fantastic tech experts from across the globe. David Beaudreau, heading Apps and Cloud for our Sogeti US unit. Pierre Lombard, heading Apps and Cloud for Sogeti France.
Hi, everyone.
Martijn Mulder, our Microsoft Solution Architect from Sogeti Netherlands. And my very good friend and CTO of Sogeti Apps and Cloud Global, Pierre-Olivier.
Hi, everyone.
Before we kickstart today's discussion with these, let's say, smart tech people, a short recap for all who could not attend the last session. In the last session where we debunked the hype on intelligent apps, we challenged our panelists on why the industry is starting to move towards the concept of intelligent apps, when they are, for better definitions, simply modern or custom application development. We deep dived into how applications have evolved from a pure user interface to natural language chat interfaces, how applications are being developed with copilots, how applications are starting to know the persona of the person asking the question and the intent with which the question is being asked, and how all of this is getting tied to not a single data backend, but a mesh of apps, systems, agents, and data, behind which is where the applications are truly transforming into giving intelligent responses, far more contextualized to the situation and to the person who is actually asking the question. We also looked at real-life case studies on how this journey evolved, from where we started using Gen AI with a beside angle of copilots, where they really help build apps quicker, to agents, bots, which help converse in natural language, and how we are today in the world of agentic, where multiple agents are able to talk to each other and take decisions depending on responses received and make it extremely contextual. Our clients are infusing these agents and agentic solutions into the applications that their consumers are using, and we are already seeing several benefits coming in from gaining a higher user base, as well as the ability to retain their users longer within the ecosystem, but most importantly, a very high level of customer satisfaction. But what does this mean? It means that eventually, if we don't start moving towards bringing this intelligence into our applications, then we might land up losing in the long run, which is not very far. With that as a backdrop, let me kickstart today's discussion with our panelists on what are the main challenges to govern, build, and scale these Gen AI or agentic apps or solutions.
If I may first, before talking about challenges, it's important to keep in mind that we have to serve businesses, we have to serve use cases. And so let's think about this approach of centralization, governance, tooling through a platform to serve business. We saw, as you mentioned in the previous webinar, that intelligent app, agentic, is not just an isolated trend. I really believe it will be soon the foundation, the basement of most of our IT projects. So it's important to think in a global manner and to a way to think about governance centrally. And I think business is waiting for CIOs to be ready with this kind of platform, industrialized factory approach. But as some challenges for me, I think we need to think about a central organ to avoid lots of heterogeneous initiatives that are impossible to govern and to manage. Second, and it's linked, it's the security, of course. It's a mandatory topic, habilitation, responsibility, cybersec, and we have to put in the organization a global manner a global way to deal with that. And we start to have some questions by client, by the way, on how do we keep AI under control? We have the financial, of course. How do we manage costs? How do we manage costs for different business units? So everything around FinOps. And I would identify maybe a last one, which is for me interesting. It's not directly business related, but to have this kind of centralized approach or centralized platform, it's a way to identify our AI champions, our super business users on AI, and it really helps in the way we will do the change management, in the way we will work with other business units. So again, very great challenges in front of us with this kind of AI app platform.
Yeah, you're right, Pierre, and I like you mentioned being in control, because it's kind of still of the Wild West with this agentic AI, right? And you have to have adoption, and that's really a challenge for our enterprises, our clients, to start with this and to really trust and grow mature AI services and focus on that governance.
And so let me refer also to Gartner. In his last prediction, Gartner was mentioning AI governance platform, a system that ensuring AI is reliable, fair, and accountable as one of the organization's top priorities. And for sure, there are challenges in governing GenAI agentic at scale in the organization. And what our clients are telling us, predominantly, it's complex and difficult to leverage several GenAI capabilities. Second, there is a lot of question coming, what is the right governance and how to be equipped in having this governance set at the organization level. And lastly, when we are working on a POC, on an initiative with GenAI, how to mature what the organization is doing through a kind of value realization process. So predominantly, we are identifying these three top challenge for organization moving on this topic.
Thanks, Pop. So it's all about governance. And even if we have this governance well defined on paper, how do you truly land up initiating process industrialization so as to enable a common seamless way of onboarding, managing, and giving visibility and transparency of the workloads on the platform? How do you do this?
Sure. Perhaps let's start defining what is the situation we are observing at client. If I take the word of Pierre, for sure we are in a use case driven approach with different, I will say, stage and level of maturation per use cases. And as far as we are reaching a pilot of production, there is many concerns that are coming. And in the other hand, there is a parallel approach to build, to define, to test the capabilities from sandboxing, testing until production on scale. And what we are observing mostly, there is a balance between agility and governance. And we think, and we observe that probably the best way will be to be at the middle as a right balance between innovation of platform. And doing that and implementing this approach, this is what we name a GenAI apply strategy. We are seeing a process approach to equip the company in navigating through these different activities. And for that, we started with process industrialization. So really we flip the traditional lens of focusing more on technical capabilities on software stack first, in focusing on the organization process that we can empower. And let me give you 3 practical examples touching 3 different roles in the company that we can support through this journey. So let's take an example. As a solution builder, I would like to create and manage a new agentic solution, including model selection, multi-agent orchestration, guardrails, RAG. So you understand, beside this activity, many steps are required on the platform to perform in the right way. Second, as a platform administrator, so taking another role, I would like to list, manage, and observe cost of the different agent initiative. So again, it is a process, it is a way to proceed on this different activity. And lastly, as a use case user, I would like to interact with an agentic solution from test to production environment. So let's figure out what behind this process, where there is really multiple steps that are, for example, including validation workflow, and they are orchestrated by the system. So really, to wrap up my purpose, we started to think, putting in the shoes of these different roles, understanding their concern, the complexity, the activity that we need to conduct as a daily basis to deliver these capabilities.
You know, Pierre, I agree. I think we've experienced this very recently as well in the industry, and you know, that's really from the perspective of how do organizations embrace cloud services in general, and the speed at which cloud services are being released. And we see that speed, of course, in the release of models, model variations, versions, and how do organizations embrace that speed to innovation in this agentic world now, while also meeting the requirements and capabilities that you refer to. And I think really it's about service onboarding. You know, how do we, as an organization, embrace our security and compliance concerns? How do we embrace our data privacy concerns? But also making a service available, whether it be to our development teams or to our business runners, right? How do we assist in the process of, reducing the complexity, the mental capacity required to understand all this innovation and bring the capability into the organization faster and more productively, ultimately. And I think service onboarding is the answer there. Interestingly enough, it's one thing to move at speed, but I think we also had to consider the FinOps, repercussions around this. Again, similar to cloud services, and a lot of organizations got in trouble early on related to adopting cloud and the governance mechanisms that were put in place to support the consumption of those cloud services. And the reality is many of these LLMs that we're using today and will continue to use do run in our hyperscaler environments. And so really extending some of the FinOps capabilities that we've built for cloud services, I think, is paramount. And for organizations who have not yet embraced FinOps enablement across their cloud or on-premises environments, I think it's really important to think about that as we embark on this process of adopting these LLM models in this agentic world, in building these service onboarding organizations, right? Very important that from a governance design perspective, we consider the cost implications, and equally important, we consider the business value creation, right? Cost is one thing, but what value are we driving through that cost? And are we truly bringing value to the business as they expect?
Okay, David, thank you. You're right. And if you look at it and you see how we engage with the cloud, the transition to the cloud, and what we needed there was the cloud platform. And the same thing is with these agentic services. You really need to have a sort of platform engineering aspect to this to really bring the value to our customers.
So you talk about, Martijn, platforms, but why do we even need an AI platform? Can we not simply use, like you said, a very robust cloud foundations, integrate it with a data platform, augment it with some additional AI controls, or simply infuse them in the apps we build? It might be easier to share with some examples where we have successfully implemented some of these platform initiatives as well.
Before finding example on AI platform, I think it could be interesting to have kind of step back on what happened on other topics. For example, on data. On data platform, we all have seen the explosion of data platform, and at the beginning it was plenty of initiative, some technical topic, and then is isolated business initiatives for reporting, analytics, pipeline, data lakes, etc., etc. And with the explosion of data trends, we are in most of organizations, and I'm thinking about a client in bank sector in France. We have multiple data platform, and now we have challenged to have a unified data platform. So we have big and expensive program to have kind of convergence of this platform with all the topic of data governance, data quality to join with. And on another topic, we had a client in CPR where we have built from the beginning a kind of centralized way to push insights for all the geos and all their brands, and it's still relevable 5 years after, and I think very cost effective. Another parallel is low code, no code experience. We have great skills and project on Power Platform within Sogeti. And I have in mind a transportation client that really worked well to have all his employees able to create forms to use Power Platform for all of their projects, and it's great. But at the end, without a global platform, they have hundreds of Power Plat applications, forms, SharePoint, etc., and it's very complicated to manage that now. To have a clear vision of all the application. And by the way, with Power Platform, you can easily, by design, have this kind of global platform to govern centrally. So we know agentic will be at the center of everything. So let's not repeat legacy limits or error we had on data or low-code platforms.
Yeah, Pierre, absolutely agreed. And we not only let's use platform to try to control the effectiveness of this tech stack, right? But as we mentioned, governance is paramount, and driving through a platform centralization of observability is crucial. Understanding how we observe across the behavior of these LLM models, and the success and failure, the effectiveness of our prompting, of our MCP capabilities that we are building up as enterprises, as the RAG footprint that we're utilizing with these models, based on what particular agent use case that we're working towards. It's important that we drive strong observability into the environments, and expecting individual development teams or operational teams to bring a high and similar level of capability in this space. We've proven that's a challenge in the cloud world, very much so. And so again, I think if we lean on cloud experience and cloud service experience, and we extrapolate those learnings into this new LLM world, it tells us that centralizing some key concerns like observability is really important. Providing, of course, a mechanism to enact the governance guardrails we spoke of earlier. Super important, right? How do we do that in a way that is effective for the enterprise and the controls that are required, but as well provide the freedoms and the capabilities to the development teams and to the citizen developers to be able to explore, innovate, and drive value. And I think platforming is truly the answer here. Platforming at its heart is a product-focused approach, right? And you can't be product-focused without thinking about your customer. And in fact, the customers are our developers. They are our business users, our champions, our business runners. And so as an IT organization, thinking about how do I get my arms around this? How do I ensure that I'm maximizing the value that my organization takes from these capabilities while protecting the enterprise at the same time? And how do I keep my customer at the forefront of my thought process to make sure that I'm providing value to the organization the way they expect it? Platforming is the answer.
I fully agree, David, with your call on platform engineering and also the product mindset that you are here introducing. And let me share in some way a personal story about IoT platform. You remember in the early days, we connected sensor to machine, we tracked temperature, vibration, motion, it was just data raw, isolated and hard to scale. Then came IoT platform, the connective tissue that changed everything. Instead of fragmented devices, we got one view. Instead of raw data, we get context to create, for example, smart logistics, and we unlock this innovation. So at the end, IoT platform turn physical things into services, product, what you mentioned, that were monitored, optimized, and continuously improved. Just as IoT turn connected things into intelligent system, if we are making the parallel, GenAI platform will make the link between agentic capabilities and organization use case into intelligent agents, apps, and products.
That's a good way to also summarize and draw parallels both to data and IoT platforms as well as, David, to cloud platforms. And I really like the view you gave as customers are the developers, yeah, which is why you need to kind of ring fence, but give enough flexibility for them to build up. It's a very nice way to put it. So what is all of your dream of this AI app platform? What does it mean? What would you want to really build up?
Yeah, good question, Joy. And I'm a developer, so in my heart. And we as developers, we want everything as code. So in my dream, I have AI as code, right? But if I talk about an AI platform, then I think about reuse of agents, and versioning my agents, and really work on them. That's part of the dream. And tracking usage, the cost, of course, seeing what value it brings, and really understand how they collaborate together for me to bring value to me as a customer, to me as a developer. So tracking the cost, and I don't want to rebuild all my existing APIs. I want to plug them in. I want to be adaptable. I want to leverage the speed and the organization that I already have. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So that's all the things I really would like to have. And if I foresee it, then it's like a Kubernetes cluster for services, right? You have a health check. You know what service is running, what agent is running. That would be the ideal dream.
Martin, couldn't agree more. I think it's in addition to that, really important to realize and to understand that, the fact is this world is changing very, very quickly. And there's maybe some folks out there that are thinking, well, if I building a platform now, to look at, for instance, model context protocol, it's only been around for 5 to 6 months roughly, and so building a platform, how do I embrace this innovation train, right? How do I manage this? So I think it's really important. My dream from a platform would be that not only is it's got to be really flexible in its ability to embrace shift and change in the tech stacks, right? But it also can't limit the capability of our customers, of our developers, right? We need guardrails, we need controls. But at the same time, I think we've got to allow our developers to, in some ways, move beyond the platform if needed. An example of that might be building an agent with perhaps OpenAI, for instance, and then extending their experience beyond the platform directly into Azure agents, for instance, to do any specific customization, as an example. And so, a platform itself should drive guardrails, and it should drive adoption, kind of understanding around what's appropriate for me to utilize as an enterprise user. What are the pathways I need to abide by? But at the same time, it can't limit us based on the innovation train we see happening with this technology stack. So very important in my mind.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you talk about agility of the platform, and I think it's the key. You talk about control too, and it's important. And this balance between control, agility, is the key of all we do for many years. And of course, for this AI platform evolution, it's so much relevant to me. And adding to that, we have to get this agility, this control for both the product and the business people. For me, the dream is to have a platform that allow all the tech to do all they want in the best mutualized way, and to use all the integration with application, and to allow people, business people, to work with this kind of solution. And I think about business analyst. For me, in the global chain of AI, there is a design of the agent, and the business analyst of the business has to be able to work, to design directly in this platform, to try and learn, to develop their business agent. So, and last but not least, in my head, when I thinking about platform, and for many customers, it's a big investment. I have to put 10 million on the table to build the platform, and then I will have use cases. I think most of the time we paid, the platform are paid by first business to use it. No. AI platform should be an accelerator with value and optimization from the first use case, and facilitating scalability and performance when we have hundreds and hundreds of agents. And this is our assets. This is the way we want to have assets in Sogeti. So I think it's important to mention that.
So many things were already said. If I try to formulate, sum up what our clients are saying, their dream could be a platform that unlock time, adoption, and talent. It is mostly what we are seeing, and probably through three criteria that we can mention is how to free up collective intelligence. Second, definitely to be self-service. And third, to unlock, to empower agentic use case everywhere. So this is mostly what we are dreaming at this time.
Great. It sounds like it's really Gen AI at scale. Huh? You really want to drive this across the entire organization, but want to reduce the amount of impact that is there for the developers, but also be able to ring fence, control cost, have security, guardrails, and the elements that are needed to not lose control. Yeah. So great. So Pop, do we have a platform like this, and what is the platform solution that Sogeti brings to the table?
Yes, I think we have Joy. So let me describe really quickly what we did at Sogeti. As you can see, we try to have a really modular approach between the services from our partners, especially Microsoft, including infra, but not just infra, also anything regarding Gen AI and application runtime that are in some way highly tied these days, especially with tools and MCP. There is a link that is ever stronger in application. Second, as it is complex, we created advanced capabilities to be sure that we can manage objects, processes like we discussed. And third, we define a kind of self-service portal to ensure that our client can start at day one, having the right wizard to get access to the technology, and we will demonstrate just after. What is interesting also to highlight is you can completely bypass any specific portal, having access to the different API by your own, but also to connect any ITSM solution, like for example ServiceNow or Atlassian, to be able to request object, and you understand here it is initiative of Gen AI or multi-agent on top of the platform. So you recognize here also the discussion that we have just before about industrialized process. So as you can see, it is layered on this different part of the platform. And as you can see, it is highly modular to be maintainable, to allow evolution, to allow also scalability of solution if one day it is not anymore Foundry, but other solution in addition for client. So that's really the mindset that we provide through this modular platform.
Wow. That sounds really exciting, Pop. And you mentioned about a demo. Is it possible to have a quick demo? Nothing is better than seeing it in action. Also, you mentioned about using the self-service portal to create a multi-agent solution in minutes. That will be fantastic to see.
Yes, let's do. So yes, sure, Joy, really happy to share a demo. As you can see, welcome on the GenAI Foundation portal that we were discussing just before. Also, let me highlight that it is really an asset that we can land in the client context. It's really matter for us. And let me show you how, like that, as you can see through a simple wizard, I can create what we name a GenAI initiative to be really inclusive across all the solutions that we can build. Could be a copilot, could be a single agent, could be a multi-agent, could be supervised, could be sequential. So for that, we create this term of GenAI initiative. And as you can see, you are going through a wizard. So again, you can get full access to the API to make it in a programmatic way. And let me show you, for example, here, I'm requested for a client to create a multi-agent named My Travel Companion. So assuming it is a travel agency. My cloud provider is Azure, and I would like to leverage OpenAI GPT-4o. And as you can see here, I have a menu that I can fulfill to create several agents. The first one would be travel control. I can define a description. I can define a prompt, an extensive prompt. And again, I have some menu to select the model. Iterating on that, I will compose my multi-agent with several roles. So assuming that I need to have an agent to book flight, specialize on this task. So as you can see here, you have the jet set agent with a description and with a prompt. I continue adding more agent in that story with a local lens. The local lens will be focusing on culture and activities on the destination of the traveler. Let me move and let's incorporate a stay well agent that will be the agent balancing, I will say, free time and also wellness for the traveler. And lastly, there is no travel without budget focus. So we need to have an agent focusing on handling the budget and the financial control of this travel. Okay, so as you can see, my travel companion solution will be supported by 5 agents in this way. Now it is really interesting because we were talking a lot about, I would say, a continuous elaboration and improvement of the agent. So as you can see here, I have several options in my hand. I can say I starting to be sequential. So it means I will have activities like that in a sequential way. And eventually, if I haven't defined my agent in the right way, I can select the different agent and I can change the sequence if it is required. But sometimes I need also eventually to elaborate with more freedom, more autonomous behavior. So as you can see here, I can select the supervised orchestration. So as you can see, I can select the supervisor agent. It is a travel controller. And now I have child agent that will be contributing and requested by the supervisor. Okay?
That's very interesting, Pop. I love the flexibility that grants, especially a business user who's in here playing around with, hey, how do I kind of think through using agents to account for the business process that I'm looking at or that I'm working towards, right? And that ability to kind of shift between the two, that's very interesting.
Yes, clearly. Thanks, David. So as you can see now, another part that really matters for our client is to be supported by guardrails. We talk a lot about governance and control. So it means we need, for example, to define guardrails as a org baseline and eventually having additional guardrails depending the different purposes. So it is something that we can manage. So we can refer to some existing list of word race, but also incorporate and select the relevant one. Okay. Now, again, we push a lot the idea that we are not just talking about tech capabilities, but really supporting an organizational, I would say, way of working. And you know, when you are in an organization, you need to define entities, ownership, leaders, cost centers, so many things that you need to tag to be sure that you can govern what you are doing, especially when you are going at scale, what we are hoping in this approach, having 10, 50, 30, 100 of use cases that are in elaboration. Next, another huge piece of that story with agent or GenAI is to be able to bring a RAG to this agent. So as you can see here, we can suppose that this travel agency is already having a kind of book of activities. So in that case, we don't want to have agent that will be too much generic, but really agent that will reflect or answer with the company knowledge of this travel agency. Okay. And based on that,
One thing I'd ask you, I see the tags, which I love because the FinOps control that can eventually lead to is quite strong. And I see, of course, the RAG management. What about model context protocol? I don't see that here.
Yeah, for sure. So I can show you just after. So here we are in a kind of introducing use cases, but for sure, now behind each agent, we can imagine multiple, I would say, connection with existing system to get, for example, in that case, waiver on official, I would say, website. So it is definitely something that we can do inside the platform, and also I will show you just after having access directly to the technology what we are supporting. Okay. So now I'm creating an agent. So as you can see in this screen, let me switch now to the agent interaction. So as you can see now, my agent is my multi-agent is created, and now I can list through all the solutions that are in elaboration. So really think that there is many use cases that are created, sometimes deleted, others maturing, over clone to ensure that there is multiple companies that are interacting with. So as you can see here, I recognize my travel companion with the different agent, and I can, like that, iterate with this agent, trying to formulate for some example. So as you can see here, I'm planning a 4-day travel in India. And as you can see, the system, the multi-agent system by supervisor is working well. I have a first step delegating task to the different agent. Each agent is answering in a proper order. As you can see, flight, city, accommodation, activities, budget. And then I have a kind of wrap-up, sum-up made by the supervisor according the different answer formulated by the agent. Okay, so this is one way to interact with the use cases with the agent, multi-agent that is in elaboration. So really here what we can share is we have a milestone to say we can create multi-agent solution in minutes. For sure, there is more to do to elaborate and to mature the different prompt on interaction, but we can really create a multi-agent in minutes. But the story is not.
I will use this POP for all my travel plans now. Let's get it into production very quickly.
Really happy to promote to production, but in the meantime, let's be really lucid about what is happening. So for sure, we need to iterate on this use case. So sometime it is life, we can fail, and so it means we need to make some cleanup to ensure cost control. But sometime we will have also to export this multi-agent, or eventually to clone this agent to mimic eventually the behavior and the configuration we made from one agent to another. So really we are in a way to empower this life cycle in a company, in the organization. But the story that we are envisioning, and it's referring to our nice introduction about intelligent app, at the end, there is no really intent on value to consume from production standpoint this agent into a kind of portal. So we have really a kind of bridge to be sure we can integrate this agent, multi-agent, into an app. So it is the screen that you are seeing just here. And in the other hand, it was the introduction that we made on the platform capabilities. We are really modular, so it means you can completely, if you like, bypass the self-service portal, having directly access to the different API to create these different agents and to interact with the lifecycle. And as you can see, for sure, on the link to our partnership with Microsoft, we can also make things outside the portal. So the portal is really here to provide the golden path of the company. But I can, if I would like, have direct access to the technology. So as you can see here, you recognize Azure AI Foundry. You recognize the different agents I created. And as you can see, I can eventually get full access from the technology on the different instructions that we put, okay? And especially, an highlight for you, David, you mentioned any interaction that we can do. So as you can see here, you recognize how you can map action to an agent. And for sure, it is something that we can propose through the foundation on the portal. And as you can see here, you recognize also, just to close the loop, the famous interaction that we made that give you some interest, joy, to track what is happening on the platform. So you understand in a nutshell what we try to do. It's really what we were discussing just before. You are seeing processes that are implemented and assisted by a platform. The ultimate way to assist people on the organization is to provide wizard, but it is completely something that we can get programmatic. And we propose the right balance between something that is surcharging for simplicity and enterprise enablement, and also having, in any case, direct access to the technology, and especially from our partner, Microsoft.
Yeah, pop balance is the right word there, right? Because, each organization and their particular security and compliance footing is going to drive, will need to drive that balance, right? It's a governance conversation to understand how do we enable our organization, and then what flexibility do we provide? Do we fully lock this down through a platform, or do we provide the type of flexibility that would allow a development team to, for instance, come into AI Foundry, for instance, and continue the development cycle of that agent and capability beyond even what the platform and the guardrails it provides, as it may exist today. So I think fantastic demo to see the flexibility that we spoke of and the need of that flexibility earlier. Really important to strike the right balance as an organization as to what our individual enterprise approach would be to enable our teams. Yeah.
Thanks, Bob. This was really fantastic. And just for our audience as well, I think the important part is, while you see this as a visualization, what we are really trying to position is the platform underneath, which is giving you the ability to enforce those guardrails, to put in those tags, to have the cost center management, so that there is accountability, traceability, observability that you can really position upwards for you to take the right decisions within the organization at an enterprise level. So brilliant. So if I was your client and I had to move on this platform, either set it up or get onboarded on it so as to be able to kickstart on this fantastic journey of building multi-agent solutions or Gen AI solutions, do you have the first baby steps that I can take to immediately get onboarded on this journey?
Yeah, Joy, I think we absolutely do. You heard us speak a lot today about governance and guardrails, and a plan ultimately. And I think, if we look at our customers and the IT market in general, obviously there is a wide spectrum of maturity in this space and adoption of whether it be classic AI or, in this case, generative AI capabilities. I think it's really important to understand where the organization is today. One of the things that we do very well and provide to our customers very rapidly is a jumpstart program. And this is a program that's very rapid paced, but incredibly outcome oriented to help our customers understand a particular use case or a particular scenario around generative AI. And there is in fact a jumpstart focused around the governance and compliance requirements for generative AI. And as an organization, if you haven't gone through that, or you haven't really taken an enterprise lens against that conversation, I would highly recommend we start there. And if in fact you do have a governance plan, then I think it's aligning that plan to the capabilities of the platform that we can provide as an asset. And also, by the way, thinking about, I understand what this asset does. I see the demo Pop was kind enough to take us through. Perhaps I want some of the actions that are available in, AI Foundry, for instance, to be included in this platform. So I think looking at an effective roadmap to understand what is it that your organization really needs in a agentic platform to drive the type of guardrail that you need for your company, and mapping that too against what this particular platform can provide to you out of the box, and then let's figure out how quickly we can customize. That's the whole point of this. Is, as earlier mentioned, it's got to be nimble. It's got to be flexible and easily changeable to embrace the adoption and innovation that we see happening right now. So, I think we can't ignore the fact that it's important to correlate the organization's governance plan to what capabilities exist. Let's launch a pilot of this platform, and then let's continue to build capability into it as it becomes your own generative AI and intelligent app platform.
Yeah. In line with what you say, David, what I would like to highlight is what we shared last time on intelligent apps. It's at the end platform, it's really part from a journey. As we can see, we can highlight at least the 4 parts of this journey, for sure, to envision and to detect opportunity into the organization. Could be through use cases to the business, like you mentioned, Pierre, but also from, I would say, portfolio management, assessment of application, like we made traditionally. There is just new criteria and new capabilities that we can provide to this assessment as a benefit. Second, it is the purpose of today to build this foundation and to rely on this foundation, and this foundation helping to realize and to roll out for the different scenario. And you are right in your question, Joy. We try to really make it pragmatic. So as you can see, we completely assume that there is several platform model we can apply. First, if we are starting with the first one, we can imagine just to have a team that we like to move on. So having just the baseline of the platform, it could be a kind of effective fast start for this kind of organization. Second, it is a predominant scenario that we would like to provide. It's really an enterprise ready to go. So providing exactly what I shared before. So having all the infrastructure, runtime provisioning, plus advanced capability, plus a self-service portal approach. And it is something that we can deliver with, I would say, intermediate customization and integration in companies, I would say, in a couple of weeks. And then we can go until a maximum, I will say, level of customization. Here it will be a full custom approach, and eventually completely upgrading, making additional development on top of what we provide. I remind to the audience that we are mostly in an asset approach. So it means we can engage with this asset, and this asset can be fully customized, landed in the context of the client. So you understand, in the nutshell, we try to respect also the rhythm of adoption of our client, being able to, for sure, focus on the middle on enterprise ready to go, but in some way having some overscale on over level of customization, if it makes sense.
Great to see this, Bob, and very nice to also understand that we have jump starts both in evaluating where our clients are but also to kickstart them on the platform journey. If I was to wrap this up with one advice that you all can give to our audiences to put their best foot forward, what would it be?
You know, Joy, I think for sure, trust that this is real. You know, this is proven now. Yes, it's early. Yes, it's come at us very quickly. Be ready because it's going to continue. That speed will continue, and there's no doubt this is real. You look at the investments globally being made into this technology ecosystem. You look at the value already being produced through these capabilities, already being deployed by enterprises, by your peers, your competitors. I think it's very important to understand that this is real. It is coming at us all very quickly, and it's incredibly important that rather than waiting, rather than thinking about kind of meeting this hype cycle in the middle like we would typically do with the IT, capabilities, I think this cycle is a bit different. It's certainly different. It's proving to be different than what we've seen in other technology stacks, and I think understanding that and empowering your organization with guardrails and coming at this the right way and coming at it quickly is very important. Very important. So I would say, two things: trust that it's here, and be ready to build the guardrails to ensure that your enterprise can deploy effectively.
Yeah, I fully agree. And think about the journey. It's an exciting journey. Think about the journey for now. First, think about your use cases. Of course, it's the beginning. But on another side, like everything in AI and Gen AI, adopt a try and learn approach. You in front of your screen, play with it. Play with Gen AI, play with agent, create an agent, and then call us. Call Sogeti to make it possible, to make it well-tooled, scalable, governed. We have assets, we have expertise, and we love to do it. So call us and try it.
Yeah, of course we can do it, and any one of our developers can do it. So challenge them, right? Challenge them, trust them, and challenge their creativity, because it's really with the experiments that you do that you see that anything is possible. So go for it.
And before to formulate an advice, let me just make an analogy, Joy. I will say building with Gen AI is like hiking, and I will formulate two concepts. You won't reach the summit without the right high mountain equipment, and you won't outspace yourself and others unless you train, iterate, and adapt during your journey. So my advice will be let's build your platform and scale your use cases, finding the best balance or the good balance between agility and governance.
Brilliant. That was some great advice. AI app platform is really becoming a necessity for maintaining resource consistency, governance, transparency within a secure setup. But try fast, learn fast, fail fast, and keep your eye on the North Star to be able to really build an AI app platform at an enterprise level to be able to deploy at speed and scale. Yeah, because it's coming, it's here. You need that to be onboarded. Brilliant. With that, thank you so much, panelists. We come to the close of today's session. To our audience, please do visit our Sogeti website on all the details on intelligent apps. Don't forget to download the guide we have built with Microsoft on Start in Control, Stay in Control. And please engage with us and our experts for any questions you have. Thank you so much, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.